Hello friends. Today I am gonna explain the latest movie released in Netflix named 180. The movie starts with Zach, who is a devoted family man, like countless other days, is driving his son Mandela back home. The roads are filled with normal traffic, and the city is moving at its usual pace. But hidden within that ordinary chaos, two contract killers are quietly carrying out a specific task when their path briefly crosses with Zach's vehicle. The tension doesn't immediately escalate, as the visible presence of the child forces them to hold back and move on. Meanwhile, in another district of this vast musical metropolis, crime lord Easy learns that his personal driver has betrayed his trust. Such betrayal comes at a heavy price, and the man pays for his mistake with his life. A few hours later, Easy needs a replacement, prompting his top Lieutenant Larumo to train a new recruit. The pair move through the urban maze, introducing the newcomer to routes, tactical maneuvers, and the unspoken rules of the underworld. Unaware of the forces aligning against them, fate once again brings their path together with Zach, who is once again traveling with his young son. At a busy intersection, their vehicles collide with tremendous force. The attackers demand answers, but Zach refuses to back down and firmly states that they ran a red light. The verbal argument quickly turns hostile and escalates into a physical altercation. In the chaos, one of the thugs pulls out a gun to intimidate, but in a clumsy attempt to prevent a major incident, his partner accidentally redirects the weapon. The stray bullet hits Mandela directly. In that moment, Zach's entire world comes to a halt. Overcome with panic, he rushes his son to a nearby medical center, clinging to the fragile hope that the boy might survive. At the same time, law enforcement uses available means to track down the driver involved in the incident. The man, identified as Karwas, claims he knows nothing about the armed individual and insists he was only working as a taxi operator. However, the fear visible in his eyes clearly suggests that he is hiding crucial information. The authorities present Zach with a lineup of suspects so he can identify the shooter, but none of them match the person who fired the weapon. Moments later, overwhelmed by confusion and emotional distress, he mistakenly points to one of the men and demands his immediate arrest. The officers explain that proper procedures must be followed, which intensifies Zach's frustration and pushes him toward the thought of taking matters into his own hands with a weapon. Fortunately, the police intervene in time, calming him down and preventing a reckless decision. A few hours later, the inevitable tragedy unfolds. Mandela succumbs to his injuries and dies. The grief is unbearable. His wife, Portia, sinks into an abyss of sorrow. Zach, completely shattered from within, begins to move toward a dark and irreversible transformation. As days pass, the official investigation unexpectedly loses momentum. Files go missing, and Zach's distrust of the police deepens. Convinced that the system will never bring justice for his son, he decides to search for the truth on his own. He moves through neighborhoods, consults underground contacts, and pieces together clues until he finally tracks down one of the criminals. Unfortunately, the criminal anticipates his intentions and abducts him, taking him to a deserted location with the intent to kill him. Just when all hope seems lost, an unexpected event occurs. A stray dog nearby starts barking, creating a distraction and giving Zach a brief moment to escape. Zach manages to escape, and in the struggle that follows, he kills his attacker. Despite this victory, he knows that the real shooter is still at large, the man who fired the shot at his son. That night, covered in blood and weighed down by guilt, he returns home. Portia stands silently beside him, both fully aware that nothing can bring Mandela back. The next morning, Zach goes to meet the investigators, and he is shocked when he sees the lead detective Floyd meeting privately with one of the suspects. He decides to follow them and uncovers a disturbing truth. There is a direct and illegal connection between Detective Floyd and the criminal gang responsible for the attack. The level of corruption runs far deeper than he had imagined. Floyd's partner, Detective Leela, completely unaware of this treacherous network, continues to seek justice through legitimate channels. Meanwhile, Zach has already discovered that this gang operates under the disguise of taxi drivers. Desperate to protect himself, he asks his brother Zuko for a gun, but Zuko firmly refuses. The argument quickly escalates, and during the scuffle, the gun accidentally goes off, injuring Zuko. Later, detectives Leela and Floyd question the family about Zach's whereabouts and also inquire about a recently killed taxi driver, but their mother claims to know nothing about the incident. Driven by a desire for revenge, Zach eventually tracks down his son's killer. He confronts the man and points a weapon at him, but the criminal, filled with arrogance, deliberately provokes him, knowing Zach is still conflicted by his moral values. The man mocks and insults him, and in a final act of contempt, even physically assaults him. Upon returning home, Zuko learns about the extensive investigation Zack has been carrying out and realizes the grave danger looming over his brother. However, Zack is once again captured by members of the gang. They tie him up, beat him, and make it painfully clear that opposing them will lead to severe consequences. They decide to execute him in a particularly brutal manner, planning to throw him into heavy industrial crushing machines. Just when all hope seems lost, law enforcement officers raid the facility. Acting on information from Portia, Detective Leela arrives at the scene. The criminals scatter and hide, and in that brief moment of chaos, Zack manages to free himself from the transport vehicle in which he was being held. However, the nightmare is far from over. After the police withdraw, crime boss Reezy orders the complete elimination of Zack's entire family. The killers break into his house. Zuko, still recovering from his gunshot wound, tries to fight them off. He is quickly overpowered and shot 3 times. Portia somehow finds a hiding place and, in tears, tries to tend to Zuko's wounds, but it is already too late. When Zack finally arrives, he finds Portia alive, and the two hide until the killers leave. Upon entering the main room, they discover that Zuko has died. The tragedies keep mounting, and this cycle of brutality shows no signs of stopping. A close informant pleads with Zack to stop and urges him to trust the legal system. But Zack has completely lost faith in institutional justice. He realizes that the entire system is rotten and that personal action is necessary to get answers. Transforming his pain into determination, he vows to move forward no matter what, until he avenges his son. The next day, during Mandela's funeral, Zack is unable to bring himself to attend. Law enforcement agencies are actively searching for him and have declared him a dangerous fugitive after the recent violent incidents. Watching from a distance, he witnesses Mandela's farewell, his heart completely broken and helplessness consuming him from within. As soon as the authorities discover his location, they move in to capture him, but Zack manages to escape. There is only one thought in his mind: revenge, and he is ready to do anything to achieve it. Determined to infiltrate the enemy's ranks without alerting anyone, he devises a strategy. He takes up a job delivering food supplies and disguises himself as a courier. Maintaining a calm and trustworthy demeanor, he successfully enters the hideout where those responsible for his son's death are operating. However, while trying to locate his main target, his cover is blown, triggering a fierce confrontation. In the middle of the fight, he loses his weapon and finds himself badly surrounded. Even so, in a desperate attempt, he bursts a gasoline-filled radiator, temporarily blinding his opponent. Taking advantage of the momentarily impaired vision, he grabs a nearby metal hook and pierces the man with deadly precision, killing him. Before taking his final breath, the dying criminal reveals the truth Zack has been searching for. The real shooter was Karwas. He warns that continuing down this path of revenge means that he will be next. With this information, Zack goes directly to the organization's leader, Easy, confronts him, and demands Karwas's location. Fearing for his life, Easy agrees to cooperate, and, begging for mercy, hands over every piece of information he has. At that very moment, the detectives burst into the room. Tension reaches its peak when Leela discovers the betrayal. Her partner Floyd is the informant who has been helping the gang from the very beginning. Without hesitation, and carrying the full weight of her duty, she fires her gun, bringing his end once and for all. Meanwhile, Zack has already left. Every step takes him closer to the culmination of his relentless pursuit. When he finally corners Karwas, he unleashes the rage that has been building inside him for days. He forcefully subdues him, fully determined to deliver justice in his own way. Terrified, Karwas begins to beg, insisting that he never intended to fire the shot. It was completely a mistake, an accident born out of pure chaos. But then, something completely unexpected happens. Karwas's young son, in sheer desperation to save his father, picks up a gun and fires without any real intent. The bullet hits Karwas. Time seems to stand still. Zack is stunned and momentarily loses consciousness. The scene shakes him with overwhelming emotional force, and for a moment, he hallucinates that his own son is standing before him. With a broken heart, he embraces the vision, whispering how much he loves him, as if he has been given one final chance to say goodbye. The illusion shatters when Karwas's son, trembling violently, points the gun at Zack. Severely wounded, Karwas pleads with his child to lower the weapon, so that the same endless cycle of bloodshed is not repeated. In that moment, a profound change takes place within Zack. Regaining his senses, he finally understands everything: the pain, the loss, and how revenge only deepens the damage. Without saying a single word, Zack stands up and walks away. Before leaving, He calls for medical help for Karwas, choosing to spare his life despite having the chance to end it. Walking aimlessly in the pouring rain, physically and mentally exhausted, his hands trembling, he leaves behind a final recorded message for Portia. In it, he admits his failures. He acknowledges that his decisions pushed him too far, and that some mistakes are unforgivable. He knows that she may never be able to forgive him. With deep sorrow, yet a strange sense of peace, he says goodbye. In the end, Zach walks away from violence, not as a victorious hero, but as a man who has lost everything. Thus, in the midst of heavy rain and complete silence, he moves forward in search of a peace that he may never truly find. And with this, the movie concludes. Hope you like the explanation. Then please do like and subscribe my channel.